Do you want to know how to deal with a BBC woke wanker? Well, of all people, comedian Jim Davidson is going to show us how. Hey up everyone and welcome to Political Nerds. I'm Steph the Alter Nerd, your nerdy political guide from Washington DC to Westminster and beyond. In today's video I'm going to discuss how we can deal with a BBC woke wanker thanks to the advice coming from none other than comedian Jim Davidson. Now do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and as a disclaimer, I am not inciting hatred to anyone or a particular group, religion, etc. So let's jump into it with this clip that was shared on Twitter by Charlotte Emma UK, saying a lesson on how to deal with a BBC woke wanker by comedian Jim Davidson. Now, this clip is over 2 minutes long. I will be pausing it every now and then to provide my commentary for fair use purposes, so let's jump into it.
Apologise. When the BBC apologise for the black and white minstrel show every time they go on air, I'll apologise too.
But you said earlier that you regret Chalky White, which was that crude Jamaican
I can't
stereotype.
keep apologising.
But you regret, but you
who
don't.
do I apologise to? Ask Max Clifford that. He knows everything. Who do I apologise to? People I've upset. Well, you know, write to me the people I've upset, and I'll write back. But don't put stupid things on the internet saying, let's chop his head off.
Oh, I see. So you
can't have mental people.
You're happy to apologise to individuals who've been offended,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's pointless issuing a broad apology. Okay.
Well, a broad apology. Okay, I'll apologise now to anybody in the world I've upset. Done. Let's move on.
Yeah. This is the thing, right? When someone makes a mistake, whatever mistake that may be, right? You do have to apologise for it. Absolutely. Because you've made the mistake, you need to take ownership and you need to apologise for it and you need to learn from it. But, as Jim Davidson says, you also have to move on as well. And so, he's made the apology, now let's move on. The problem that we have in this climate at the moment is that somehow the one apology isn't enough. You need to continually apologise, continually self-flagellating yourself in public, right? Until the masses are then satisfied. Now, you apologise the once, you learn from your mistake, and you do better in the future, and you move on.
Now, you see, that's how ridiculous that is, isn't it? I think you apologise to people by your actions of today, not of your actions that were condoned and allowed, and actually, you know, saying, come on, do this, it's funnier. That was then, this is now.
Now, Jim Davidson makes a really, really good point. Because the other kind of crazy thing that's happening in this environment today is that the society or section of society is trying to force these comedians and these public figures to apologise for something that they did years ago, where years ago it was acceptable and now it's not. I have to admit, I kind of see Jim Davidson's point. Why apologise for something that was done years ago that was acceptable then? He did nothing wrong within that time frame of when he did it because it was acceptable at that point. Everyone was fine with it. He wouldn't do it now because times have changed. Fair play, right? But why apologise, let's say 20 years later, for something back then that society deemed acceptable at the time and celebrated him for it? They liked his jokes. They liked what he was doing. But now, 20 years later, he has to apologise for it? Doing something in a time frame that at that point in time was acceptable? I do get Jim Davidson's point on that. It's a little bit of a sticky wicket, isn't it, guys?
Let's all be judged by our actions, not about what we did and what was acceptable before. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to say.
I do think so as well. Let's be judged on our actions now. What happened before in the past happened in the past, during a time that it was acceptable to do. So let that go. Judge on the actions that people are making now. People are making actions that are not acceptable by today's standard right here, right now. Then, yes, apologise. Yeah, I get that.
Earlier you were saying that
You don't
hate...
want to move away from that, do you?
No, but earlier I remember you saying to me that you hate all fat women on the dole.
I didn't hate them. I just said they're good things to have a go at, and it doesn't really bother me. I don't have a conscience saying that an overweight woman is a target of comedy. No, not really. Eat less.
You see how that BBC presenter tried to twist his words? Being like, well, earlier on you said you hate fat women. Jim Davidson put him right. He says, no, I didn't say that. In essence, saying, stop putting words in my mouth. This is what I actually said. Like this BBC presenter, this BBC woke wanker, is trying to demonise Jim Davidson. And Jim Davidson's just not having it. And he's putting up some really, really good points that, you know what, I can't really argue with, in all honesty.
And if one of those texters now and said, I'm really offended by what you said,
Yeah,
would you apologise?
No, not really.
Why
I'd
not?
just say eat less, because that wouldn't really bother me.
Okay. I'm an overweight woman on job seekers allowance and I have a baby. Recently made redundant as a director from a 100k salary job. Comparing me to Jeremy Kyle attendees or stereotyping people who can swallow pride and can survive a fall is a sad moment of truth
Yeah.
about Jim's cringe comedy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Oh, so you are sorry about
I'm sorry to that one, yeah.
Why sorry to that one?
Well, that's just something to say. I don't mean it. Shouldn't eat as much.
Okay.
That's horrible, isn't it? Well,
Why
fancy
say
putting me
sorry
on
and
the
then say I
spot.
don't mean it? What's
Well,
the point
I don't
of
mean
that?
it. What?
This is the thing, right? I have to admit at this point, what Jim Davidson said there was wrong. You can turn round and you can say flippantly to a fat person, don't eat as much. However, you're just assuming that. You're assuming that they are fat because they're eating too much. There are other reasons why people are fat. Underlying medical issues. Medication can make people fat. Jim Davidson there is making a comment there in terms of, well, don't eat too much, very flippantly, and I have to admit I'm not on board with that one. I really am not.
Well, because that's what you want me to... Would it be better if you used to say sorry? I just said it.
I
No,
didn't ask you
it
to say
wouldn't be
sorry.
better.
I just read out the lady's text.
Yeah. That's real, isn't it? Of course it is.
You think it's made up?
Oh, yeah. She should have thrown a few other ones in as well. Got a bit of a limp and ginger hair. All them other things that people have a go at. Yeah, of course they're all made up. If I've offended that woman, I am sorry about it. But it's not my fault you're out of work, and it's not my fault you're overweight, and it's not my fault. It's comedy. Get a life and get your show. Apologise.
That I do agree with Jim Davidson on. That, regardless of the topic, it is not immune from comedy. It really is not immune from comedy. Any topic is ripe for comedy. I firmly believe in that. I firmly believe that comedy has a right, a freedom to take the piss out of anything and anyone. Any religion, any belief system, any philosophy, fat, thin, in between, animals, whatever. Don't give a shiz. Comedy has the right of free speech to take the piss out of anyone and anything. And so towards the end, I do agree with Jim Davidson on that point. Now, he makes a really, really good kind of interesting statement there, which is that person's not real. You've made that email up. You've made that text message up, this, that, and the other. Do you know what? I won't put it past the BBC to actually fabricate something like that. Now, that's just an opinion. I'm not making a statement of fact there. But yeah, I won't put it past the BBC to potentially do that. And it's an interesting perspective for Jim Davidson to actually take that I hadn't really considered before. And, the BBC woke wanker turning around and saying, oh, well, why are you apologising? Why are you apologising? Well, earlier on, This BBC woke wanker was all about Jim Davidson apologising for, his past comments that may have offended people, this, that, and the other. Jim Davidson turning around and saying, look, I'll apologise directly, personally, to the people that do say they've been offended, who do reach out to me and say that they've been offended by me. Lo and behold, BBC woke wanker presents an email, text message from someone, whoever that may be, real or not, saying, Jim, you've offended me. From that conversation, what else are you to assume other than this BBC woke wanker presenting Jim Davidson with a specific person who Jim Davidson has offended, this specific person reaching out saying, you've offended me, Jim? Stands to reason that BBC woke wanker was like, well, here's a person you've offended. They're reaching out to you saying they're offended by you. Apologise. Jim Davidson says he's sorry, but then goes one step further and admits that he don't even mean his apology in the first place. Because ultimately, comedy is comedy. And it has a freedom to be able to take the piss out of anything and anyone. No comedian should be sorry for that whatsoever. If you're offended, fair enough, you're offended. That's your right to be offended. Equally, it's the comedian's right to go forward with their art form of comedy and take the piss on whatever they want. If you don't like the comedy, you just don't follow that comedian in the first place. Very, very easy. But every step of the way during this clip, Jim Davidson fights back and pushes back. And that is how you deal with a BBC woke wanker or any woke person, right? That's really to an extreme. Push back. Don't let them run all over you. If you have an opinion and a disagreement, an argument against what they're saying, don't be scared into silence because they're just shouting the loudest. No, speak up. And be like, no, I actually disagree with you and this is why. Or, I don't believe this and this is why. Or, this doesn't actually make any sense and this is why. Because I'm sick and tired of this woke lot dictating to us what we can say, what we can't say, what we're to believe, what we can't believe. And trying to silence us by saying, oh, we're racist, or we're far right, or we're this, that, and the other. We're transphobic, we're this, that, and the other when we say something that they don't agree with. I'm sick to the back teeth of that BS going on. And so whether you follow or you agree with Jim Davidson or not, this clip right here to me, it's a great example of how to deal with any woke wanker, really, in the grand scheme of things. If you don't agree with them, if you think something they're saying just doesn't make sense, then speak up. Have that conversation with them. Don't be scared. Because they get their power in us being scared, in us being silenced. And I'm not being silenced anymore on this. I'm really, really not. I was scared in the past. I was scared in the past to voice my opinions because I was bullied by the woke crew into thinking that my opinions were either racist or transphobic or whatever, right? When in reality, they're not at all. I'm not racist. I don't give a shiz what colour, race or religion you are. Do you? You've got the freedom to be who you want to be. I've got the freedom to be who I want to be. The problem is when anyone encroaches on my freedoms to be who I want to be, live how I want to live, and have the opinions that I want to have. Yeah, then we've got a problem. I was agonising starting this channel for a while. For a long, long time. Because I was so scared into silence by the woke crew. But then when I started to see our government lock up Just everyday British folk. Only just for sharing little hurty words on the internet. Locking them up for 3 years. Yet releasing rapists, murderers, hardened criminals on the streets to make room in prisons for those that have tweeted hurty words. That to me was the straw that broke the camel's back. That to me was the final nail in the coffin. That to me was when Political Nerds, this channel, was going to become a reality at that point. I had to stop being scared. I had to fight back in my own way, which is making this channel, doing these videos, and giving you my opinions, my commentary. Again, I'm not inciting hatred to anyone or a particular group, religion, etc. All I'm doing is turning round and saying, here's a story, whether I agree with it or disagree with it. That's what Jim Davidson was doing right here with this BBC woke wanker. Turning round to him saying, no, I disagree with you on that point, and this is why. A lot more of us, I think, need to be more vocal. And we need to stop being bullied into silence. With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, and believe me, of course, there's going to be more, you do not want to miss my next video, then make sure you subscribe to join our Alter Nerd tribe here at Political Nerds. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theories, whatevers. What do you think to what Jim Davidson said here? What did you agree with him on? What did you disagree with him on? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces. And until the next time, you guys, laters.